call to order the meeting, planning and zoning meeting for Tuesday, February the 11th. Approval of agenda. Everybody had a chance to review the agenda, so I need to take a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
On the motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of minutes from January 14th, 2019. Everybody had a chance to review those? If so, I'll take a motion to approve, or
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes on January 14th.
have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Public comment. Is there anybody here to speak about anything other than what's on the agenda? Okay, we're gonna move on. Non-action items.
Good evening. Crystal Ball, Planning and Zoning. We have a encroachment of private property. It is in the 500 block of East Central. So, if my thing will work. Let me go back to that one in a second. This is a Crosswind Fairgrounds. You see the fairgrounds buildings right over here. So what we have is these properties here have actually encroached an alleyway that should have ran straight at the back of their fences. If you'll notice up here, this alley comes out, and then right here, all of a sudden it goes to this side. The alley should have been where this green line runs. So the green lines on here are sewer lines, which are behind these fences. The blue line is a water line, the yellow is a gas line. This gentleman had a survey done for this property to place a mobile home, and this is what brought this to my attention. His property line goes within 2 foot of this fence right here and less than 1.5 feet down here on this end. So as the city, we need to come up with a solution to help alleviate this problem. So we have options that we could, tell all these people, get a survey done, tell all these people they got to vacate that area, move their fences, move their buildings, all this. But then we would have the cost of moving those utilities. Another option we have is...
Wait. Why would the city have the cost of moving the utilities?
Well, we wouldn't have to move the gas line, but we put those utilities in the wrong place when we put them in.
You're saying that... I'm confused. The way I see the drawing that you have, if the alley was where it's supposed to be, those water lines are in the right place.
Nope. If the alley was where it's supposed to be, the alley should be right over in here.
Underneath the house.
Underneath these, underneath the back of their fence. So like I said, 2 foot, the alley is 2 foot from their fence. And the alley should have been from this corner, 20 foot this way. So the alley should have ran right back here in this back area. So another solution that I thought we might, would save the city time, effort, and everything. There is an 80-foot easement right here for Chavez. There is a 50-foot easement down here for a no-name street. That's just a street vacated for a street property when this subdivision was made. So if we were to vacate this portion, the east side of this easement here, 20 foot, and grant them that 20 foot, they're losing approximately 30 back here when a measurement on ground, but to alleviate the loss of their property, because they bought this lot to actually be this size, but they're not going to ever be able to use a lot that's that size. Does that make sense?
So if we give them the property.
So if we
will
come
they
over
have
here
to-
and we vacate 20 foot of this, we would still have a 60-foot easement. We could even vacate 30 foot of it and still have a 50-foot easement if there was ever the road established here, because we don't have roads that are 50 foot wide. And we have other areas in town that have 50-foot roadway easements. Several, actually, so.
Is there any long-term plan out there that includes ever developing that road?
No.
So why don't you vacate the whole daggone thing?
Well, because you have to leave that access for the people who own this property down here. Because this is, if this is sold off in the individual lots, there's 4 more lots down there. So we would need to leave that access for people to be able to access their properties. We can't take that away. But if we just took away a portion of that easement to give to each one of these property owners and actually replat that to be the alley would then become a 40-foot alley, basically. These guys would still be encroached on 20 foot of it.
So the south unnamed easement right now, does that go the entire block?
The what? The south easement here?
Uh-huh.
Yes, it goes from here all the way back here. I think it even goes clear up to here. So they've encroached on it here also. Because it goes, I do believe it goes all the way to here. I should have put that Google map up here too. So these were pictures on site. This is the survey flag. The stake is in the ground, and there, that fence is just right there at it. There is the sewer manhole clear over in this area where it should go straight through. But it doesn't. For some reason, the sewer comes back around over here. Why we didn't go ahead and put those utilities in a straight line for the alleyway, I don't know. I wasn't here when we did that. But these are the other survey markers. You really can't see this one. It's right off in this area. The second survey marker for that corner is right in this area. And that's the one that's only like 2 foot away from the fence. Or 1.5 foot. This other one up north was 2 foot, so.
Is any other existing fence or anything on top of any of our utilities?
No, there was the gas line was actually marked. Someone had did an 811 call for the area. The gas line was marked out in the center of that alley almost. And I could see where there was a manhole right in this area for the sewer. And then the water meters are all stacked up right against the back of the fences. So we always tee our water meters off of the main line into that. So the water line could be a little further towards the gas line or almost directly in line with those meters. I drew the water line just adjacent to where the meters are sitting. So we know it's probably actually 1 foot or 2 more in that direction. Or it could be even further.
So they have nothing on top
No.
of any of our,
No.
okay.
No, the fences are all off of the utilities,
Okay.
as far as I could tell there.
So on your presentation, you have, I assume the property on the west side is the one that I see here, Mr. Valencia?
The which one?
The property in question that was purchased, is that Mr. Valencia's property?
It was Mr. Valencia's property. It is no longer. Somebody else has purchased it. And he's going to be putting a mobile home on this lot.
Did he purchase all of them? or
Do you
just
have that?
Just
do you-
those top 2 lots,
Do you
actually.
have what I'm looking at with
The
the
blue outline.
plat? Or the marked out Google Earth image of all this? Do you have that on your presentation?
Little blue lines.
The marked out one?
I think it's called the existing utility lines.
Yeah, that's this right here. Is that not what you're looking at?
It's all in blue outline.
Oh, okay, that's the actual lots
Yes,
on,
do you have
on
that?
E-maps.
Can
No,
you
I
put
don't
that-
have it up here. Because the overlay on E-maps is not actually accurate,
I
so
agree.
it gets people confused, so I didn't want to put that up.
Okay.
So,
But I did want you to know that there were those different lots within there.
so we don't have anything that actually shows true property line locations.
An overlay?
With fences and where the utilities are in this.
No. No, the best one I have, this one should be in there.
It is.
Yeah. Because I put this one in the packet. Because this is the one I knew I'd put on my PowerPoint to show
It's
you
the
guys.
beginning of the alley, going this way. Going, well, go down. Yeah, right there, that's that corner,
So
looking that way,
looking that way on Central.
yeah.
So, me and James just thought it good to bring this up, kind of point out what direction, you guys would suggest.
Well, the way I see it, you have multiple issues. The people on the east side have more property than they're being taxed for.
Yes.
And the people on the west side aren't getting full access to theirs.
Yes. So that's where if we replatted the entire block here and actually platted this alley to where it actually is, to where we don't have to move utilities, and then these guys would actually be taxed a higher rate because then their property size would increase, correct? And these guys' property, depending upon how much we vacate over here, it would either increase, it would either stay what it is or decrease by 10 foot. So if we did a 20-foot, they would lose 10 foot of property. Because their property is 140 by 100. Isn't it?
Does that affect the mobile home that they're going to put on the
Yeah.
property? Because we ran into this issue last year where someone purchased a home too big for the property.
Mhm.
So they may have purchased purchased a home to fit that property, and if we make it too small.
He will actually, with the home he is planning to purchase,
Uh-huh.
he will actually meet setback requirements,
Okay.
even with the way it is right now. He would be, he'd be 32 feet at the back, which is only required to be 30, or 28, 20% of the lot length, and he's only required 25 up here, because by code description, this would be his front, and this would be his back.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have a 15 foot on the side, and he would have 25 here, 5 here, and 28 to 30 here, and he would have all of that.
But if there's not a street there, how can that be a front?
Because it actually is platted, that's supposed to be a street. Our undevelopment,
Does it have a name?
that's Chavez.
That's Chavez?
Yeah, that's Chavez Street. That's South Chavez.
So,
That's actually
Is
the
it-
100 block of South Chavez.
so if we're going to require that they put the front to a supposed to be street,
Mhm.
an imaginary street, I don't know what you want to call it because it's not finished. Are we obligated to provide them a street?
No.
Mm-mm. No,
No,
developer has to do the street.
Yeah.
And there's not an individual developer, he's developing a lot. So basically up here, this is what happened when they let people start moving mobile homes in here. These two moved in before I started,
Mm-hmm.
and they let them just have a dirt road. Because these people did not want to put in pavement to get to the front of their property lines. There's no code that says we have to make them do that. So yeah, you already have a dirt road from clear up here all the way through.
I assume they're okay with that because they bought the land.
Is he aware that that's gonna be his front?
Yeah, me and him discussed where he would be able to place the mobile home and everything, and the mobile home, I was looking at the size of mobile home he was getting to put on there, and it fits appropriate in a lot, he has plenty of extra room, it's not a huge monstrous mobile home, so.
Patrick, have you looked at this?
Before I was probably born, I think those utilities were put in. I don't know, I mean, I think what probably happened is someone eyeballed it at one time, put the utilities in and called it good. And so I think that, you know, on the one hand, the people that are on the east side, let's say at the gas line that front towards the fairgrounds, they've been enjoying some additional property that they shouldn't have. But it could have been because that's where the city put the utilities. And so I think our records on when those utilities go in are probably non-existent, other than going back historically and speaking with the most senior person in the water department, sewer department, saying, when you started here in X, were these utilities already installed? Yes. And so that gives us a baseline of at least when we know they're in. And so, under those circumstances, I think what Crystal is suggesting is the best approach to it, because it's gonna have the least amount of impact on everybody. The gentleman that buys the property that's outlined in red is actually gonna get the square footage that he should have, and we also should anticipate then any of those lots south of there to that unnamed
Yeah.
easement would probably enjoy that same benefit. We don't have to move our utilities, we don't have to go through the hassle of moving everyone's fence and everything else on that other piece. And, you know, I don't know what the city gets different from a couple extra square feet of taxes on that property, but probably doesn't amount to much. So, I just think this is something that we see, I wouldn't say on a regular basis, but when you go into neighborhoods that are about that vintage, it's not uncommon
No,
to see that.
we do have this issue
And I've
in
seen
other
it
places.
since I started working for the city in 2001, 2002, and so it's just, we don't have good records, and I can't give you an explanation of why the utilities are not in the alley, other than, you know, it was eyeballed, someone put it in and called it $50.
Backhoe drifted.
So how far would you recommend moving them to the west?
I would recommend the 30 feet, just because that would actually give them, because like I said, for this to actually, this gas line to actually be in the actual easement, it was right at 27 feet. We don't want to do an odd number. It's easier to stick with take the 30 back here and give them the 30 up here.
So the distance between the gas line and the water line is how far? I have no dimensions anywhere.
Yeah, because the gas lines and water lines weren't marked, and Miguel said he was swamped last week and couldn't get to it, and Darren said he had big line water breaks, could never get to it. I could never get the water and sewer guys to go out there and show me exactly where those lines run.
Do they not realize that a one call has to be answered in 72 hours?
That was a question I had.
Well, believe me, because about a year ago, we were talking to the owner of this building, and water and sewer both told me they didn't have no utilities back here at all. That they got their utilities from up here. So there is problems with where we know our lines are and where we don't know our lines are.
Do we have a plan to, okay, so we're basically outlining the plan to solve that problem.
Yes, that's just some headway. Where do you guys think I should go with this? How do you think I should proceed?
Well, what we don't know is the distance from the water to the gas line.
Mm-hmm.
And so until you know
Which
that
I would get all that.
until you know that distance, you don't know what the width of the alley needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously we want at least a 20-foot alley. Hopefully that dimension between those two is less than 20 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But then that sets how far to the west you can move this guy's new property line.
Well, and that's something I can get. And that's what I'm saying. If that's the way you guys want me to proceed with this, then I can start getting all that information together. If that's where we want to go and have some surveys done, find those lines, determine how wide we actually want to make that, determine how much this one, and then that way I can get this prepared and actually bring it back as an action item. If that's the way you guys want me to go with it.
And are you saying right now there's no ordinance in our system whatsoever that requires them to build a road?
Not unless they're developing a subdivision,
Yeah, not
and they're just developing a lot. So the problem, and we've had this a lot in older subdivisions. It's like the Knoll addition. Why didn't those roads ever get built out? Well, because whoever did the subdivision put in those few roads where they built the few houses and didn't ever complete the roads or the infrastructure.
Right.
We have that in several areas, this being one. They made this subdivision, the developer split it up, subdivided it, but then nobody pursued them to put in the infrastructure. It's like on the Domzowski, you know, they keep telling me, where's our final plat? I said, well, I can't approve it until you finish your alleyways. They've got the water, the sewer, the road's done up front, the curb's done. They haven't put the concrete pads around my sewer manholes that were required when they did it. And until they do that, I'm not gonna final that plat. I mean, that's where we're trying to hold these developers more responsible because of issues like this that we face now, because it
What
wasn't.
subdivision is that?
Domzowski,
No,
J.O.
J.O.
Reed.
Reed, Domzowski,
Have
something.
they already received a rebate from the EDC?
Yes. Because their final plat was approved by commission, right? With the condition that they would finish those alleys. So they're like in a conditional
Yeah, but they
finalization.
should have never received their funding.
Yeah, kind of how I thought, but commission approved it and just said you with the condition that you finish the alleys. So me and Wyatt are still on them constantly about finishing those concrete things.
Lean it.
Huh?
Well, I don't know if you could put a lien on
Yeah.
just because they haven't complied with the plat.
Well, they didn't comply with the terms of the EDC agreement, I can guarantee you that.
There could be something in there too. It
Well-
just depends on when those additional considerations were put on as far as, you know, the concrete and some of the other things like that. So, I know that's kind of a weird area. I think we had to get, a roadblock removed from that area.
Yes.
One time, and, you know, so.
And I won't put in, I'm the one that gives the order to put in the streetlights, and that is one thing I'm holding them on. I'm not gonna turn around and tell the electric company to put in those streetlights until I have that, until I have what I need. So that's one way I'm holding them up, is I'm not giving, and they complain about the lights pretty much every other week. Well, can we get lights? There's, you know, people just hanging out doing who knows what on that street down there because it's dark. I'm like, finish the alleys. I'll get you your lights. So I try to hold little things like that where I can make people do the right things. It's
Well-
just hard.
And I was told that I couldn't build until there was a street in front of my home.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying that they.
Because
can-
they did a subdivision.
But that was before they had the subdivision.
Mm-hmm. So
I
you
purchased
would have had to have built the portion of the street in front of your lot.
But you're not that's my point, you're not requiring the same.
Yeah, I
thing.
don't know, I will double check code, but I've never read where you have to develop a paved road.
Well, that was the
in front
reason
of
you
your
have to
lot.
have access to the road, and it has to be paved. I told them I would caliche it and everything and
Mm-hmm.
put in a
And
curb.
they still said no?
Still said no.
Okay,
So
well,
what
I'll
I'm saying-
double check that.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that
He may have to put in some
Yeah.
pavement over here.
yeah, so,
If
or
that's the way the
just,
code goes.
you know, access to it,
Mhm.
and you have to approve it. That's the only thing I'm questioning about in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I got pavement and I have stuff built, so, you know. But, let me ask you something, Randy. So if we move that 30 feet over, and if we're gonna replat it, would it not seem reasonable to also have the other properties that are existing to replat theirs as well, so that we have accurate records and documentation? So that the other people that though they have the benefit of the additional space, and if we're not going to require them to move back to their property lines, should we not also have them have their property replatted so that it's accurate for our
Well, that's
future
where I
records?
was saying we would replat the entire block, because this is one
Well, I
block.
was just understanding it was that one section.
Yeah,
on
no,
the
this is
west.
all one block.
Okay, so
So
you're
it
talking
would be
about
that
every
one.
property would be replatted. That's all I was,
Yeah, the whole block, in my opinion, will have to be replatted. I think you still leave a can of worms open with respect to not having a developed road. Your
Okay.
approach is the simplest approach.
It is.
If we
And
can
I
get
mean,
all landowners to
this
agree.
is a non-action item, so, you know, you guys can mill this over, maybe give me some advice at the next meeting, you know, and during the comment time, just say, hey, we kind of figured maybe this is, or I can put it back on as another non-action if we want to discuss it again, if we have time to. come up
What
with
about
some
if we just let them put their street address on Central? You know, be the front of their property.
Okay, where they put your 911 address does not legally describe your front, sides, and back setbacks per our code. The way the code is written, your front is described by your 2 lot lines with the shortest length. So if you have 100 by 140, that 100 automatically becomes the front,
Just by size.
just by size. That is how it's described in
What's the size of this lot? It looks like
140 by 100.
140 by 100. All those lines make deceptively square.
So with your game plan, does he end up with the same size lot that he had before?
Yes, if we vacate 30 up front and replat that alleyway to where it needs to be,
So we
that
just-
would make him have his
We just
100.
need to get good solid dimensions. Who's the surveyor that set the?
I'll look
original-
that up. Let's see if I have it here. Because I don't know, I mean, he didn't send me the survey yet. Because I don't think, they didn't do any type of plat for him. They just went out and did the survey and marked corners for him. So, yeah, I don't have the actual, and I can't remember who it was. I'd have to go back through and read my emails, see who it was that surveyed. Harold Lawson was the one that contacted me on this, not the property owner. Harold Lawson was the realtor in charge of the sale of this property.
Okay.
So you're just seeking direction right now? I would think that the wisest thing would be to get accurate locations for the utilities.
Okay,
Make sure the game plan actually,
okay.
if it does, Patrick, would you, at the expense of the replat go to the city?
Well, I'd like to see how far off those utilities are. You know, one of the options we could do is say, well, we've got it by adverse possession, so too bad. You know, your lot's just smaller. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if those other fences were installed based on where we put the utilities to start with. You know, we put the utilities in, that becomes easement for the alley that everybody drives. Are we the source of all lines and fences being in the wrong place? You know, I just don't know. I doubt those homes went in at a time where they had their own private water wells and septic systems. You know, just something we have to look at and see. More than likely, I'd make a recommendation to the city to do it because it's probably something that was started by the installation of those utilities. So, now, the developer could put those utilities in, I don't know. That's always a possibility also. My experience looking at some of these is that we just, you know, had a situation where that's where we think the alley is, everyone drives down it, that's good enough for us, put them in and, you know, go on to the next problem tomorrow perhaps, but I can't say for sure.
Okay. Are we confident that the sewer line that goes down and around is actually,
A viable line? No.
no, are we confident that it's actually where it's supposed to be? I know it shows, it.
Yeah, I
If
drew
that
it,
line's drawn anywhere near close to where it's supposed to be, there's a really good potential that that sewer line's on that south property, inside that south property.
yeah, I drew it as best as I could from the water and sewer maps. But when I look at gas maps, because I do have gas maps for this area too, the gas maps actually show it to be in the actual in the alleyway where it's supposed to be, But when I went out there, the yellow was marked out in the center of that alley. It wasn't marked over here where it should have been. Because the gas maps have to actually show that gas line running straight down here all the way through. They don't show it jogging over, moving. So,
And this is an old gas line, this isn't one of the newer ones.
no, this is not a new gas line, this is a normal.
Well,
It is
should-
not set to
should
be
make it
abandoned, but
really
it
easy to
is
pin.
an older gas line.
Yeah, I mean, just go out and find it, see where it is.
I noticed,
Well, I mean, you can, the metal lines are easy to find.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
the plastic lines that don't have
and
tape
the
on them
old
that are hard.
clay sewer lines are hard to find. And that is more than likely what that is. Most of the sewer lines in this area that we have messed with have been the old clay.
I say we get maybe a shovel and get started. I mean, there's still, what, hour and a half a day left.
Yeah.
Well, I think the direction from all of us is that we should get good dimensions and make sure that, the concept works. If the concept works, then, start thinking about how we're gonna separate out, or if the city's gonna pay for the replat and everything else, and, contact all the owners and get them in for a working session to talk about it. I don't know, Patrick, would you agree with that?
I would. Yeah, I'd like to see exactly where it is. You know, then we can kind of figure out how far off are we, because it's, you know, having them drawn up there is one thing, having it, you know, right in front of your face, where you can actually walk out there in the dirt and take a look at it, and get an idea is a little bit
Yeah.
different.
And you have credible measurements to go off of,
Mhm.
and then go forward from there.
Okay,
I think the other thing I'd like to see too is somebody survey those other lots, that lot, let's say to the east,
mhm.
and see if someone starts at this marker and works their way back, are we gonna meet up at the right spot on the west side of that lot and the east side of the one identified in red? You know, because we might find,
I did walk it with my wheeler
those,
from that marker with my little wheel. And when I left this point, I walked out here in the street, and when I left and got up here and about even with these, where they put the end of the pavement here was supposed to be that was as much as the DOT was supposed to do, because that was property line. So when I did that, it measured out to be like 167 feet, and those lots are only 140.
yeah.
So,
Could
yeah,
be.
it was way over, so.
Well, you should be able to verify the front of the properties from the Sodom Miller drawings from commercial.
Mhm. Which I can get those from Brittany and see if she still has some leftover. If she could tell me where some points are, could find one and
Well,
measure from
they
there.
may or may not show on the plats, but Sodom Miller should have done, some level of investigation with respect to where the east, north-south property line is. So either way, you should be able to get that from David's store. And those are tough with commercials, anything like 17s. Half the properties are gonna be owned to the center of the road, and half the properties are gonna be described to the
Oh, yeah.
property line.
We have that all over town, in more places than I care to have.
Are we good?
Mhm.
Okay. Any other comments? If none, let's move on to action items. And get a motion to consider the non-conforming structure at 115 West Avenue, Jackson Avenue.
I'll make a motion to consider the non-conforming structure at 115 West Jackson Avenue.
Is there a second?
Second it.
So moved. Let's go.
Yep, one second, I'm trying to pull up. All right, sorry, my agenda item is 115 West Jackson. We moved in a new mobile home on this lot, owners did. And they placed it pretty much where the old one was, which unbeknownst to their knowledge, it was not placed in the proper place a long time ago. So they put in the new mobile home. The thing is the back setback was off by 6 inches. Code enforcement supervisor said due to the fact that this is not an official plat, this is an estimated property lines, we can't say we're correct. So they could be the 28, so we weren't gonna push that issue. The mobile home is okay. But by all these measurements, the carport and the fence that were existing on the site are all out in the city easement. The carport goes out into the easement by 5 foot. This north part of the fence is out in the right-of-way by 9 foot 2 inches. And over here, the fence is in the right-of-way by 8 feet. We have a code in, on street corners to where nothing over 3 foot tall is supposed to be in this 30-foot radius from the corner of the gutter right here. So from the gutter, 30 foot back would be just inside where their property line really is, but it's 12 foot into that area with what it is existing. The fence is chain link. We've never had any problems, and it is only 4 foot tall. So we've never had any problems with people saying they can't see around that corner. This is a photo of the new trailer sitting here. This is what it used to look like. This is what it looked like several years back. As you can see, the newer trailer was further back there. They did move, this storage building is no longer there. They are in the process of demoing one that's in the back because it was too close to the new mobile home that they moved in. But like I said, they are tearing that down. That's going along well. So the only issue is the existing carport and fence.
How much of the carport is into the easement, 5 feet?
5 feet of the carport is into the easement. The easement in this area is like 20-something feet wide actually, or right at. If you'll see by here, just from measuring center of road, which is the best I can do because I'm not a surveyor. And we can't afford to survey every property that puts in a house.
Well, it's not our responsibility.
No, it's not at all. So the best guesstimate is that it is almost 20 foot of easement here, and over here it's 18 something. But most of the easements in town are that, especially when you have an 80-foot roadway that's only 30 foot of actual pavement. You've got a lot of space on both sides for that easement. So
Is that what it's platted for, is up to 80 feet?
yes. Second Street and Jackson both in that area. Jackson has issues with properties that run clear out in the middle of it along there, so, but not on this corner at least. Jackson's
I see that the carport is looks structurally sound, and if at such point that we needed to have access to it, it wouldn't be difficult to remove it. So if the property owners understood that, that would be fine. But I don't see any reason why that fence can't be moved back to the property line to avoid future complication if someone were to decide, well, I want a nice concrete fence. And if you put the chain link fence where it's supposed to be, which is work, but it's not like removing a concrete or a wooden fence, I would see that as a happy medium.
And that's up to you guys. So yeah, and in the non-conforming, we always have the verbiage, it's in our code that it must have the verbiage in there that they cannot make modifications. If the structure becomes damaged, they must repair it by code. If we need anything or any franchise in the city needs that easement area for utilities or sidewalks, whatever we need that area for, the owners are then responsible to bring it up to code, which would be moving it back out of the way.
Right, bring it into compliance.
Mhm.
But a chain link fence like this would be pretty easy to bring into compliance right now.
Yes. The owners are here, if you had any questions for them.
I think if they want to say something, that would be awesome.
Did you want to say anything?
Are the existing poles that they have there cemented in the ground?
Yes, they are.
Yes, sir. The carport itself has been there about for 24 years. I mean, it's been there a long time. Whenever we did bring over, my sister and I went to go get the mobile home for my dad, you know, since we got it handicapped accessible for him. When we went, they went ahead and told us we're gonna go ahead and take care of everything. And to us, well, we don't know, you know, we thought taking care of everything, we were gonna be in compliance with, you know, the city. We didn't think we were gonna run into a lot of this, a lot of these problems. So we do apologize for that because that, we misunderstood, I guess, you know. But yeah, that has been there for about 24 years. The fence itself, it's along with the neighbor's fence also. I mean, it's not like ours is, you know, further out than theirs. Everybody's is the same. It's never been a problem. I mean, because I mean, I would think if we're having to move our fence, then everybody should comply also, not just because we got a mobile home. It's not, like, you know, she said it's not really, we've never had an issue, you know, owned that property for over 30 years, and it just really never has been. So.
Yeah, but that fence isn't 30 years old.
No, sir, it's not. But the actual structure, like even whenever there was, I mean, and it got
The other
switched
trailer
out,
that
it
on
was.
there before.
It's
Yeah,
just
but
never. We
when
just
the-
never knew about it.
When the people that moved the new mobile home in, did they get a permit for that?
No, they did not have a permit when they first moved the mobile home in. We seen it being moved in and did get a hold of them, and they came in immediately to file the paperwork. They had their state permits. The company that moved it in did get their state permits, and I think that's where their confusion was, because the mobile home said they would have the permits, and they thought they would have the city and state. And of course, the movers only get the state permit. They don't ever get city. I've been working with many different movers in the area to try to get them to wait until I give them a placement permit before moving a mobile home into the city of Lovington. But that's hard to get through to all the different mobile home movers there is. You know, Texas, New Mexico, mobile homes come from all over the place. I'm working on it.
You can't report. I know we've had this conversation before, but at some point in time, it'd be really nice to require the state to not provide a permit until they get ours.
I know in the New Mexico League of Zoning Officials, we are working with the with the Manufactured Housing Division, because that's who oversees the state permits. We are working with them that they require the planning and zoning signature before they allow the permit to be issued. We haven't got that accomplished yet, but we're working on that because, you know, we finally did get that with CID. Even though we still have the legal buildings, it's made it better. So we're hoping to achieve the same thing with the Manufactured Housing Division. We just haven't got that all the way complete yet.
Joe, any questions for the landowner? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And what was your name? Sorry, Dominique for the record.
Aida Alba.
Thank you.
And can I just say something else? It would just be, I mean, this is my dad
Do me a favor, come up to the microphone.
Yeah,
and
this
tell
is
us.
my dad, and he lives in the property, and it would be very, very difficult for him to do, do any of the labor work. I mean, we can't help with that, I just wanted to, if you would consider that. And as elderly as he is, it's really hard for him to get anything done. Marcella?
Marcella, thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Well, Crystal, you might have said, when was that mobile home put in, the new one?
Oh, let's see here. I have those notes.
In summer, wasn't it?
I know this is a completely separate file because they actually did complete everything on the mobile home permit. It was moved in, seems like it was October or November. And like I said, I seen it be moved in.
Right,
I happened,
right.
because I go down Jackson all the time. And I seen it be moved in. And so I did write them a letter. They came in as soon as I got the letter, and they did take care of everything appropriately.
And is that accurate on there, that Google 2013, that picture?
The 2013 picture?
Yes.
What about it?
That's
That's an old Google photo,
from
yes.
the lot, and that existing fence
Yes.
was there then?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So it was there prior to the 2014, which is the date that it has to be prior. In
Yes.
fact, to Google Earth pictures, I went clear back to 2006 and could see the fence and
It was still there?
it was
Okay.
still there. Before that, they get kind of blurry and it looks like there's things there, but it's really definite. You could see it on 2006
Mhm.
photos. So, and like they said, it's been there for a long time.
Okay, thank you.
Are you in agreement that the rest of the fences along that block line up with this one?
They do.
Thank
Yeah, to the, actually to the west, on down, they line up, and actually on down south, down for, Second Street,
Even probably to the school.
they come right out there. I mean, and that's one of the main things why we come up with the non-conforming approval, because someone say, well, they built their carport like that. Well, yeah, but they built it illegally, we can't help it. But for me to go around and ask everybody in an area to move something,
Right.
I'm never gonna get that accomplished, yeah.
I'm not opposed to you doing that, but
I just don't have much
I'm
pocket.
not elected. So,
I would need a whole bunch of more help to get that
yeah.
accomplished.
So we can put the stipulation on the non-conforming that any upgrades to either the carport or the fence would require it to be moved to within code, right?
Mm-hmm. That is actually written, I did the preliminary on the resolution for you, and those statements are in there. If we want to change how you approve this, I'll have to rewrite the resolution for you to sign, but that's easy enough done. Just let me know.
Am I missing the resolution in my packet?
It's at the bottom
It should be.
of the staff summary.
Recommendation, dude.
I'm sorry?
Recommendation.
No, I see
No.
the recommendation, I don't see the resolution.
It's up above, it's at the end of the staff summary.
Yeah.
End of the staff summary.
You want to see a copy of the school? Here's the actual resolution. So it has the verbiage in there that they can't modify, they cannot alter, unless it is to bring it up to code.
Bottom of that.
If it's damaged for
This is the
any
recommendation.
reason at all,
Now that's irrelevant here.
they have to then bring it up to code. If any franchise or city needs that easement area, they have to bring it up to code.
So does that need to be inserted in there?
It's in the
But that
resolution.
you already have it in there.
Yeah, so
Do we have to
Yeah, no.
put that in there also or not?
Just the way you approve it, you can approve it with staff recommendations.
Right.
So have you read this, Patrick?
I've read what's identified here as a summary, I've not read that specific document.
So the concern I have with the resolution is you use specific dimensions on something that you don't have specific information for.
Okay.
So yes, you can measure from the back of the curb and say, yeah, it's here, and we think the property line's here, but we don't know that for sure.
Okay.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
And so, Patrick, my question to you on that, would we use dimensions defined as approximately, or do we just, is that written okay that way?
Well, this is one of the things that we talked about a number of years ago when we started to look at some of these issues. So let's say, for example, I'm the property owner. I'm going to request that the city approve where the center of that street is and where my property begins. Okay, so, and as a good example, let's say we went back and looked at our first discussion topic today, and let's say the city came to me and said, well, you live in this lot and house, and it looks like your fence is a little too close to our water line. I would say, well, prove it. And the city goes out and looks and finds, guess what? Their utilities are in the wrong place. And so my fence may or may not be too close to that water line. It may be in the wrong place, but I'm putting the burden back on the city if they want me to do something and move it to actually come up with the facts. And so we've talked about this a number of times. Is it possible that that 80-foot easement, that the center of the easement is not where the center of the road is?
Right.
So it's possible that the south side of the 80-foot easement could be that curve, or that could actually be the center. There's a number of different things that could be as far as the status quo, where the easement sits, where that roadway sits in, because everybody assumes that if it's 80 foot and you've got a,
40-foot road, then you
yeah,
have
there's
20 foot
20
lines
feet
back
on
to
one
the curb.
side, 20 on the other, and
Right.
you know that's not always the case. So when I look at these, I think we're going off the best information that we have available. We could spend a whole lot of money having these surveyed and wind up with the same kind of issues and the same kind of types of recommendations from staff as far as what to do in this situation. So that's a long-winded answer for we're not working off the best set of facts to start with. So when I look at these, whether it says approximate or whether it says it is, I don't know if that really makes a whole lot of difference because we're not starting from ground zero, so to speak, to begin with. So, we could, if you want to request that the resolution have the word approximate before any of those, I'm not opposed to that. I just don't know if it's necessarily, everything in here is approximate because we don't start from a point like you do when you go out and do your work. We're eyeballing it off the center of the street like we do all the time. So.
Okay, well, as long as you're comfortable with it,
Yeah.
I'm good. That's
Yeah,
the reason why I asked the question.
Yeah, and I think what we're doing here is taking a look at a resolution that comes from planning and zoning, and then it's gonna go to the city commission, and where that is gonna carry different types of weight as far as when this property is bought and sold in the future, and there's financing and other things like that. So if there's an issue raised, we can certainly deal with it there. I think for the purposes here, this will work, and taking into consideration that we haven't found the center of Jackson and measured from the center of Jackson. I think we'd be okay.
Okay.
Now, as long as, and anytime I look at these, and James and I have had this discussion, is that normally when I put a contract together, and this is a very good example, all these whereases are kind of things to set up the circumstances, so when someone reads, and I know you stop typing, because I'm talking right now. But when somebody reads the contract, they kind of know the backstory to the contract. But a lot of these things then get incorporated into the contract after that. And so that's not how we put some of these together. And James is comfortable with that. And so if he's good with it, I'm good with it. My job is to say, you should wear your seatbelt because it's the law. you might smash your nose against the window. But I don't go into the parking lot of my clients and click them in. They're all adults, they can decide what to do and not do. So based on all that, I think this will work as far as this particular purpose, depending on what this board recommends. So I'm not saying that you should do this or you shouldn't do that, but if you were to vote on this as a recommendation, I think it would be sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's the same format we've used for all non-conforming.
In the future, I'd like it to be in the packet.
You'd be what?
I'd like it to be in the packet
Okay,
so that everybody gets a chance to review it.
Okay. I can do that.
Okay, so, any other questions for staff? Any other discussion? Now I'll take a recommendation or a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we go along with the approval, the staff recommendation for the non-conforming structure at 115 West Jackson Avenue.
I'll second it.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to approve the non-conforming structure identified as a carport with 5-foot encroachment into the city easement and a fence with an encroachment of 9 foot 2 inches along Jackson Avenue and 8 foot encroachment along Second with all required binding agreements. Any further discussion? If not, take a motion, or I'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. So you do understand what this means? It goes to the city commission from here for approval on that. No?
No,
The
non-conforming
does not.
stays here with us.
The non-conforming does not. So what this means is that if something happens to the carport or something happens and you need to do some work on the fence, it has to be brought into, and it has to be fixed in such a way that it brings it into compliance with the city ordinances. So that's the only standing. As long as everything stays the way it is, you're good. If you have to do something to it later, then it's gonna require you to actually figure out where the true property line is so you can move everything. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion to consider the amendment to November 12th minutes?
I'll make a motion to consider the amendment to the November 12th minutes.
Have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Crystal?
So I was going over the minutes that were recorded for the November 12th meeting. Then they were amended in the December 12th or December 10th meeting, and they were still incorrect. So James said the only way we could do this was actually to bring it as an action item, correcting the amendment.
Oh, this is on Paul's property, wasn't it?
Yes, it was on the mobile home parks. The space numbers just weren't said correctly in the minutes, so we just needed to notify that the spaces that were listed in the agenda were fine. They left out space B, C, D, and Q in that.
And so we amended it in the December 12th or the December 10th meeting
Yeah.
correctly or incorrectly?
The minutes were approved. We, when you can amend it right then at the
Mhm.
first of it before, well, they were done, but they only said E, right? It started with E through P,
Yeah.
and then, so they didn't say Q, and they didn't say B, C, and D, and it was all of those spaces. So
Okay.
it was just miscommunication in the amendment, and then it went to actual minutes, because it was then approved, so then we have to come back and do a motion to fix those minutes.
So can I get a motion to approve
I make the motion.
the amendment to the minutes for spaces B, C, D, and Q?
I make the motion what you said.
Okay.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.